sit up here with us?
We have a sign-in sheet also, I have people sign in, just so I know who's been here and who hasn't been here. Put down.
Oh, okay.
How you doing?
I'm terrific, and you?
Huh?
To work up on the bond. I mean, he didn't charge you any extra.
No, I've seen it.
If you had to go to the
Yeah,
zoning board,
why
all
not?
that, don't worry about it, so, you know, make it a wash. So you're all set to, as long as the state's good to go.
Hey, Rich, how are you?
You're good.
How are you?
I'm terrific. In the weather.
No, I didn't want to.
Kathy's gonna sit with us.
Put me on
That's
any-
fine, I'll sit in the background.
No, you can sit with us. Daryl, you did the drawing, so you're gonna need that. I guess not, but.
You don't mind,
I'm fine.
I'm on video, so I can't hurt you. Can't get away with it. I do have my Halloween mask on.
It did look familiar.
Yeah.
I live on steep hill and I didn't.
All right, we got 7:01, so we're late, but we're here. So let's get started. Open things up.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
good. So we'll go through the package here, just so you guys know what we have. This is just revamping the parking schedule, and the seating for the patio. Reviewing that we buried the propane tanks, which we located on the map, the new snow removal
Okay,
location.
so just hold on, I guess, so, just so I can locate the things you're telling me.
Okay, so propane tanks are on here.
This part, is that this?
Yep,
The two
yep, the two
Okay.
red dots,
Yep.
and then the one in the front,
Existing
And
protein.
then this one?
Yep,
correct.
yep.
The snow storage
Is right next to the floor parking lot.
straight up at the top here by the cottage.
Yep, right there, right, drop your finger down, big one.
Okay, so,
Right there.
oh,
Snow
okay,
storage.
okay.
Snow storage, the new snow storage. It shows in the trees, but there's no trees, it's all the,
Oh, there aren't trees there?
no, it's the trees on the border of the stone wall, that's it.
But not here?
No, that's just the overcast of the leaves and
Okay.
stuff. Plus, we've got all kinds of means of removing snow with ton trucks, loaders, everything, so. We ever got a year that gave us snow.
And then the lights that are on here, they're the new lights in the new parking.
Okay, so the new parking has how many lights?
16,
16?
yep.
Okay, last time it was 20?
Well, there was existing lights that we were counting, that
Right.
were there
Oh,
before.
okay, so, but there's 16 new lights?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Eric? Thank you.
Okay, so here are the buried tanks. Tank. Snow removal here. And 16 lights in the new area. Okay,
So are those lights there, Ken? The new
What's
ones-
that?
The new ones are there?
Yeah.
oh, they're already there?
Yep.
And they're the same as the other ones?
Yep.
Okay. And the patio?
So the patio is drawn over here up on the top where you see all the little stones,
Yeah.
that's where the patio would be. Will be.
And how big is that?
I didn't think that we didn't
Yeah,
have
we didn't,
dimensions.
she had just said, it doesn't matter how big it is, it just, need to know how many seatings and stuff, so. I just wrote,
Okay,
drew it down and be determined when we start building it because of the rocks.
okay.
But you have enough seating out there for the same as inside. Yeah. But everybody else.
We're sure it'll be in high demand when it's available.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are we looking at on the second page
So
here?
the second page is the new engineer drawing outlining everything that you guys wanted for the septic, the flows and all that.
Great,
And then part of that too, which, this is all I could, this is associated with this, which, so when the engineer redid all of his calculations actually came in under rather than over what was originally built. So
okay,
we've built for 7,963 gallons per day. And what our usage is actually with, even with the patio, is gonna be 7,030 gallons per day.
so you're under.
So we're under, so actually, this is all I could get from Dawn at DES. You gotta, she said she can't figure out how to send it to us, so I think she's gonna talk to you about getting it to you, so you can see the whole thing that Jonathan has, but this was the best that she could do for me, to be able to show the gallons per day.
All right, anything else?
There's a letter here about the stormwater from the engineer that we hired. Cause that was a question that came up regarding the stormwater.
Okay, and so we have that here.
I'm always in there for the planning board.
Oh, but she was here last time.
No, that was,
Zoning
Oh,
board.
that was on the
Zoning
bed.
board, yeah.
Sorry.
All right, so, Jonathan Sisson,
Yep.
thinks you got a good setup there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, the board have questions, comments?
I have a question between this and this, what are the differences? And what is this?
that's the flows for the septic. Yours is just yellow.
Is it the built flows or what you expect or?
This is what was built right here. This is what they have on it down in Concord. But she couldn't get me the entire document for some reason.
Okay, so this is built, and then what's this?
And this is just him, Jonathan, showing the flows. One for you all here, because it was requested to have this new plan done, and then the other is to show the flows for the state that we're under the 7,963 gallons per day that we actually built the system for. We're actually under running 7,030 gallons per day with this built with the patio. So this is just showing
It's a
that,
projection, with the patio, what the volume would be.
right.
Right. So is this showing what was built, this plan here?
If you read down through here, it's all.
Oh, I haven't had a chance to read it, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance, I just gave it to you. So this is what the state has on file, this plan of what was built, is what they have?
This is what the state has, which is bigger, which is higher gallons per day than what he has determined actual.
I understand,
seating.
so this is the plan that the state approved for you to build?
Yes.
Okay, and you built that?
Yes.
And so instead of, like, this would actually be here, right?
Yeah,
For
so
what
it's-
was built?
So it looks
Right.
like this is a copy from this section
Right.
here, but not the entire document.
Right.
Okay.
Hmm?
So did you get zoning board approval for the septic to be built 80 feet from the
Yes.
septic?
Yes.
with your patio, are you gonna need to have a fence or something surrounding it? Or-
That's all liquor controlled, yes, there'll be a fence around
So
it.
what's that gonna look like? And where's it gonna be?
It's probably gonna be a chain link fence, but do you guys really have authorization to tell me what I can put up for a fence?
I just
on
wanna
that
know what
property?
you're building, so that we know what you're building.
It's probably, I have no idea, we haven't really
That's
thought
part
about
of
it,
the
so we're
site
thinking about it.
plan.
We're doing chain link fence on the other patio, so we'll probably do a similar thing. It'll be ribbon as far as the state's concerned, but we'll do something permanent.
I guess we can do, I mean, we could do.
I don't care what you do, I just really want this to show what you're doing, so that we don't have misunderstanding again about what was permitted and what wasn't.
At the most, it would, I mean, the only thing, this still shows the borders and any fencing would go exactly around the existing drawing for, the stones here. And I think like the two options that we're to be considering are
Chain link.
chain link, probably predominantly, outside of any like wooden construction.
Right, because that's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
when we
So-
wooden construction.
When I think about chain link, I think about tennis courts and a, mesh.
No.
So
No,
what do you
So
really?
like like the poles, like probably about waist high, because they need to be
Right.
visible, because you're also have people sitting on
Right.
pole.
Yeah.
Running between those poles, a link of chains.
Okay, so that's what you mean, is like a, okay, chain in between poles, not chain link,
Flat.
just like
Yeah.
tennis.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking the same.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
not like rec area.
Sure.
Right, right,
Don't-
sorry.
don't-
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's,
That's what I was
chain
thinking.
link.
Yeah.
We're gonna cage you in, like you're eating on the patio.
Okay, well,
We
I'm
want-
kidding, I'm
and-
kidding.
And we want it to match the aesthetics, obviously, we wanna,
Okay, so just, so, okay, so, and then, how do you get to the patio?
There's a door off the building that goes to the patio.
Okay, and so are you gonna have a ramp from the door?
There, it's already built there, there's already a stairway and everything there.
Okay, but for handicap access, how does that person who's handicapped get to the patio?
We'll have it built in with the stone patio.
Off Main Street. Is that what you're thinking?
Or we can come off. the
Right
back-
off the walkway.
We come off
Oh,
the back walkway.
walkway right here, okay.
There's a back walkway, we can come off that back corner.
Okay, so,
off the main entrance.
so you're gonna have a ramp in here then too, and that's, can you please add that to your plan? So that we know where it's gonna go.
We'll have to.
We have to have a handicapped access.
Yeah, we know that.
Okay,
It'll
and
be-
then you have a door that's not on this plan, that's, should be shown. Can you just sketch it in, please? All I'm trying to do is get what you're building onto the plan. so
I
we
can't
know-
draw the ramp on until we go back and measure,
Okay.
right? We gotta go measure it and figure out where it's gonna go and how far it's gonna come out and the heights that are required by,
So, can I just ask you, this is a handicap ramp
Yeah.
now?
Yep.
This, the
Yes.
walkway
Yes.
coming in?
yes.
Yep.
That's how come it's so
Okay, so-
long.
Yeah, I know, but, if you step off of that, you're gonna fall. It has to come in off the, parking lot, cause it ramps up. You can't,
It's a matter of how high the patio's gonna end up being. when you
Right,
put the
right,
patio
once we
in.
built it,
That isn't on the
Patio
ground.
Right.
we
comes
ain't,
out
we ain't
the
gonna
same.
make something unsafe, so.
No, it has to, they have to have handicap access or to have a ramp from the door out there, but that would take up a ton of patio space. I just want to know how that was gonna work.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, I assume there are gonna be more lights on the patio. Where are they gonna be, and how many?
So we didn't know when we left this meeting that we
Right.
had to
All
design the
you- all
patio.
you
We
wanted
just asked to
was-
have it on here for the
Right.
location. So we don't have measurements, we didn't go out and measure it, we just drew it on there as we were advised to do.
Okay, well, my problem is if we're gonna have more lights, I wanna know how many there are.
Well, they're not gonna be standing lights, they'll be hanging lights. We're planning on building a trellis over this probably, so if we do that, it's gonna be hanging almost like outdoor lights, but with interior illumination kind of, it's the concept. You're creating an outdoor dining room space. We're not looking to
Right.
create a parking lot where we're receiving our guests. So that the intent is to be,
It's really hard to tell from your plan what you're intending, so it's interesting for me to hear that, like, what it's gonna be like.
Can I ask then, just to make it so we can come in more prepared, can we get a list of these kind of questions presented to us beforehand? So
Well,
that we can, like, I'm just trying to help out here, because I know that
Right.
I don't wanna have any confusion, I wanna come in so we can, we all wanna get this done as quickly as
I'm
possible.
exactly with you. Okay, so we have this checklist thing that we're supposed to be following in terms of what gets submitted and all that.
Do
And,
we have a copy of that?
I sent Tammy a copy of the site plan review regulations, which has everything listed in it, what needs to be
Yeah,
submitted. So it'll be any plans, designs of what you're,
Okay.
yeah.
Doing
But
with
that's
that,
not what they told us last time.
Right.
That doesn't matter, but that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we gotta come back again, so should we just close this and come back again with the
okay,
rest
it
of
just
stuff?
says exterior lighting, especially, you know, and so, I mean, it's not, is it unreasonable to ask? I mean,
We'll have lights maybe in the things that are overhanging the tables, umbrellas.
No, we talked about building, okay, that's fine.
so is it gonna actually have a roof, like, so you can go out there when it's raining?
No, I think it's just gonna be umbrellas.
You know, I don't care what you have, I just wanna know what you're gonna build. I mean, really, you can do it any way you want, I just wanna know what it is, and if you're gonna have a roof, that's fine, I don't really care. I just wanna know what it is.
Well, a roof is square footage, right?
yes, so roof would be considered.
Yeah, so we're all done with square footage,
I
we
don't
can't
know,
go
that's a
anymore.
zoning thing, I don't
Right.
know.
I think at the most of the intent was just to create some kind of protection from the elements not in
Right.
construct that would also be able to hang lighting. There was some discussion about growing hops up the side for decor, to match the tavern feel. We just wanna really create, I mean, it's an outdoor space, we're not looking to create another 30 seats if it's, or however many seats if it's pouring now. Really, the way we're gonna operate it is, if it's raining, folks go to the existing seating. If it's not raining, then we have this great space outside that we can seat these customers. That was the intent. The patio seating is kind of up to these guys. I know that in the early stages of development, we were talking about a trellis, not a roof, but a trellis in which we could hang hops and lighting off of, to create that decor.
Mhm.
It wouldn't do any post lighting.
Okay, well, do you have a sense about what the fixture type would be? Is it gonna be like enclosed in a shade, or is it gonna be an open light? And will there be one for every table, or is it just gonna be on the beams
So
of
you-
the trellis?
what
I'm
you're
just trying
asking
to get a
them
sense
is
about what
to,
it
is to
is.
give more information
Yeah,
about
that's
the
the
lighting.
clarification.
So let me ask the board, you have more?
I just received this, but yes. if
Yeah,
you
well,
have more-
that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
address.
yeah.
Well, how does the board want to proceed, given that we just received this? And it looks like you're gonna be adding stuff regardless. Why don't we go over everything that the board wants, and you're gonna have to come back anyway.
Yeah, so we can get a list.
So, yeah, let's go over what's required and take it from there. Is that amenable to the board? Sure. Okay? Sounds like it's amenable. People don't actually say it out loud, they send little signals, but that was my interpretation of that. All right, so let's go over what, do we wanna go through the site plan review checklist?
I think that that's helpful. for
Yeah,
the
all right, so
applicant.
let's go through that so that it will be clarifying. Okay, so, names and addresses of each abutter, legal interest holder by map and lot number. That's yes. Certified, no, okay. Names and business addresses of every engineer, architect, land surveyor, soil scientist, you got that? Required approvals prior to site plan review, variance from ZBA.
That's a kind of a question I have, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but the parking lot is an expansion in size, and it's very covered, you've already used up all your lot coverage. Under the zoning, any improvement is considered part of the lot coverage, and improvements include driveways and parking areas. So I believe that this needs to go to the zoning board for approval for the expanded parking area.
Is there any grandfathered or historic use of a parking lot in that area?
There is, if you look at the original plan, it shows where the original parking area was, and a lot of what was used before was part of an existing parking area. I spent quite a bit of time today trying to go through all the files to find everything I could to see if there was something in there that, was a prior approval, and the best I could find was a ZBA decision from 1990 that said that any expansion of the parking lot needs to go back to the zoning board. So,
So does the patio also count?
So that's
Patio, I don't
because
believe
they
so.
let us build this out. They let us build this out, so how can that be? This parking that
I
was
think it
here
was an
wasn't-
oversight that nobody caught in the last site plan, that the parking area is included.
So it requires an exception
It
from the.
is a variance because they're well over the,
Where would they take into account the overflow parking that's been denoted here?
It was on the lawn, not on the gravel.
it's
So that
not an improvement.
Not
it was-
not the lawn.
Well, that's what I meant, but they noted it here for parking. so-
Right, I do understand they noted it, but it was, noted on grass, which it would not be, an improvement, it'd just be an area they were reusing.
So there's no historic grandfather?
I couldn't find anything, and like I said, I spent quite a bit of time looking to try to find something that would,
Can we be clear, if they have a roof on the top of their patio, then it counts as lot coverage, and if it doesn't, I mean, improvement is any structure, and structure is anything constructed or erected with a fixed location above or below the ground or attached to something. So, it doesn't include a fence and, a minor retaining wall. But, let's see, it doesn't include retaining wall with a height or measure, and for camping, temporary structures used for functions or patio or walkway with some permeability. So you just can't do,
if it was a cement
right,
patio, then I would say that
right,
would
so
kind
you
of
have
up
to
to,
have pavers or
but,
something.
I mean, I believe that was your intent to do stone, so that
Just like
was,
everything else. that's there.
was all, that was my belief, so I didn't believe it was part of.
Okay, so if they put a roof on,
If they put a roof on, then that roof would
Okay.
count as lot.
Can,
okay, so let's just, yeah, so that, and what about the trellis?
Landscaping.
Yeah, I would consider the trellis to be a type of landscaping.
No, if it was on the roof, that they were gonna, you
No,
were
no, no.
talking about some sort of a trellis roof thingy?
Well, if there is no permeability through it, then it's a roof, but if it's a,
Okay.
if you
a
have,
trellis is not a roof.
I don't
Right.
consider a
It's got
trellis.
holes in it,
Right,
yeah,
that-
yeah,
Just a
okay.
pergola.
It's a
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that-
just so that everybody's clear, that, I mean, and if you wanted to ask the zoning board for that additional lot coverage, put a roof on it and ask them, and they
They're
can say
not,
maybe
but they're
no.
not doing a roof.
No,
I understand, but
So,
that's
they-
what
we have
they're
no-
not,
we have no intent.
they have no
Okay.
intention of doing it.
Honestly, we just want an outdoor patio. is all
Okay,
we're
all
doing.
right,
Okay,
all right, I just
so we're
wanted to
just
get that
sticking with the
clear.
lot coverage
Okay.
now. Are there any other lot coverage questions? Okay, so you're saying they'll need a variance?
My understanding is that they'll need a variance for the expanded parking area.
Okay, special exception from the ZBA? No?
Not that I could see.
Okay. No subdivision approval from the planning board, no. Departmental review and written comment, fire department,
You had asked the fire department, I contacted Mike Mundy, I've shown Mike Mundy the plans, I've asked him to comment, and I have not gotten anything back.
so that's to come.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just so we know what we're, I'm just curious what we're asking Mike for this plan was already approved.
Is the addition of the,
It's an outside patio or something for the fire department, is that what you're saying?
Emergency responders need to get to people who are like gagging or whatever, and whether or not his trucks can get in and out of the improved parking
So
lot
that was
are two things.
relating to the parking that's changed, but I'm just wondering about the other. Are we asking him to review?
no, not to review anything else.
okay. Lyme Highway Department, no?
I wouldn't think that
No.
it's not on a lot of town road.
Oh, wait a second, okay.
I don't know about the police department, if they should weigh in on extra,
Seating,
seating or extra, the additional parking. I assume that they'd be very happy with the additional parking, that there would be
Right,
none, but
right.
that-
Oh, yeah.
that's not going to be.
right. So it's a question of the patio. Well, what does the board think?
Whether Sean would want it.
Whether you want Sean's input on this, whether he should review it. Well, so, you don't think so?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I don't
What
have, I
he
don't
would
really
say.
have an opinion, I mean, it's a seasonal expansion.
Okay. Anybody feel differently? Okay, so that looks like a no. If you want him to, you're welcome to. Lyme Select Board. I don't see,
Does it change the liquor license?
Nope.
Having more seating?
No, they just, all they need to require from us is a demarcation of the zone, notification, it's the same license, so don't change anything.
okay. Conservation Commission, yeah?
No, I don't think we did. I'm saying that, I think we covered that, but
Okay, so, school district, no? Okay, the narrative, summary of the proposal, proposed uses and associated building area for each use. So I assume, so we don't have a narrative, but are we following what's added here, or what? And what does the board want?
Say it again.
It proposed, it's a narrative summary of the proposal. The first one is proposed uses and associated building area for each use.
Well, the building area is a parking lot, so I don't think we need a narrative for that.
Okay, so that's a no.
Right.
Okay, days and hours of operation, number of employees, the extent of normal customer business traffic, including truck deliveries.
That I think you
It's all
covered
there.
it.
it's the same.
So we have that?
That should be that second sheet that they passed out today.
Okay. Need for utility services by type,
That was covered also, I think, the following page.
Yep.
okay, so we have that. Lot size, building footprint, gross floor area, and lot coverage calculations, including conservation district mapping and reductions based upon the Lyme zoning ordinance.
That's what the ZBA is gonna determine, right?
Well, yeah, that's going to be part of what the,
Okay.
because they will need to know the square footage of the parking area.
Okay. All right, other information requested by the planning board to assist in reviewing the application. As of a few minutes ago, we had the ramp, you got those things, the ramp, the fence, the door,
Yep.
and lights on the patio.
Yep.
Was the fence part of the liquor license, I'm just curious?
We have to
That's part
do,
of-
yes, you have to have a.
So that goes to the select board, I mean, your liquor license is the select board, so you're meeting those.
No, the fence is a site feature that needs to be shown. on the
It's
site
just
plan.
asking for the location, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Okay, so,
We're just gonna ask for the location of the fences. For the fact that it.
That's what was
meets- that-
requested.
That it meets the liquor license requirements.
I don't, that's up to them to decide. I wanna see where the fence is located so that we can have it on a site plan that shows what's been permitted here in the spot.
Okay.
And, I didn't hear that the lights were gonna be shown.
yeah, you said lights on patio.
Okay.
Okay,
I have two other questions.
go ahead.
Did you say you were gonna put in a walkway from, Main Street directly onto the patio?
Apparently, we'd like to, if you guys are gonna allow it, or if the ZBA is gonna allow it.
Well, is that what you want?
Not if it's gonna hinder the building out of the patio, no.
Okay, I don't understand why that would, but, so I just wish that the plan would show everything you want on it, so that we could approve, like, what you wanna build.
All right, so what you're asking is if they're gonna have an access way, you would like it shown.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can I just ask, I'm the novice here, but what exactly, are all constructions for commercial properties of every asset for which we're building here required to be approved by the planning committee? Okay, I'm a young guy here, just trying to, so.
And they're showing it, but it doesn't necessarily need to be built. In other words, it's not gonna be a requirement to build that walkway if they show that walkway. I guess
Well, then it should be noted,
Yeah.
it should be noted
We don't.
possible,
yeah, something
So
like that.
present you guys with the dream here, and you guys let us know what we can do.
It's much better to have it approved and then build it than
Than-
build
than
it
to
and
come
come
back.
back.
Okay.
So it would be really good now that you're here, just put everything on the plan.
I'm just asking from the standpoint that would you say things are required on the plan and then they don't get built? Is that a violation of the approval or not?
Do you go out and enforce that?
But it's something that I am going to be going out and checking, so yes, that's.
yeah, but I
I'm
think
asking
the
you,
question
is
comes down
you
to,
are the
it,
enforcement agency, so
hold on, please.
Okay,
I think what
just
the question comes
asking.
down to is, if we're asking them to show potential things that they're gonna do, and they don't do them, I don't see that as a violation.
Well, we have to file so if we ask for the permission, don't utilize them, do we need to file a different drawing afterwards showing the actual build? Or, cause all of a sudden you're gonna have that on file approved, but not it's not gonna actually match what the property is.
Well, if it's noted that, if you know, I mean, my reaction to
Yeah.
that, I don't know how everybody else would be, if you're gonna put, if you wanna have all the potential to do all the things you wanna do, I would just note possible blah, blah, blah.
Heard.
You're gonna do a possible blah, 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 but that would then make it clear that it's not necessarily gonna happen,
Yeah. Understood.
and you won't have any potential violation.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, so, show any potential access ways was where this started, and show anything you want, whether you're gonna do it or not. And just note, it's a possible thing if it's not. Okay, page 2, 3, reference to a perimeter boundary survey by a New Hampshire licensed land surveyor, et cetera. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Tax map and lot numbers, we got all that
We
stuff.
have all that.
Okay, a location map shown as an inset, et cetera, with water and all that stuff.
We don't have that, but I think everyone is well aware where the property
There's
is.
actually one
Oh, there is?
on the
Oh, okay.
site plan.
All right, so that's a yes. North Point, et cetera, zoning districts, it's all, isn't it all?
It's all within the Lyme Common. There's some of the property, I believe, is in the rural district, but it's outside, it's on the, way on the back.
Not
Not,
this part.
not in the area that is being developed.
The seal of any professional firm, et cetera, you got that? Okay, Town of Lyme Conservation Districts is defined by the Lyme, that's shown. Okay, location, area, and dimensions, so this is ZBA also.
Yep.
Existing and proposed utilities, You got all those?
Yep.
Fresh water supply, yeah,
Yeah, that's,
I'm just checking.
Yep.
Sewage disposal system,
yep,
electrical lines and equipment,
yep.
okay. Exterior lighting and all signs, you got that? Or you're gonna be,
That's, for the patio part, that needs to be,
okay. Okay, a phone, cable, et cetera,
that's fine.
got that. Fuel storage, distribution lines and equipment.
Have the tanks, that's up to the board if that's enough, or if you want the actual lines where they go.
Board?
I think it'd be nice to see where the lines go, I mean, give somebody an idea where to look if they're ever digging, right?
Yeah.
Are there bollards associated with the tanks?
Yes.
Bollards for the string and
So bollards and lines, line locations.
I think they have it on file, actually.
Yeah.
David, you don't have the lines already on the drawing from the last time you were here. I feel like somebody had all of the electrical and everything on there.
There may be,
That would make
Yeah, I mean,
sense.
I would have guessed.
I would have thought so too.
Yeah.
the electrical, yes, it's the fuel lines for the tanks
So
there.
can we just simply draw them on here, or do I have to pay for an engineer to draw it?
No, as long as you have them.
As long as we draw
Board,
them where they
what
actually.
does the board
Yeah.
want?
Yeah.
On that second plan, with the flows,
Yeah,
there are propane lines on it.
okay,
So,
Oh,
the-
second plan. Yeah.
so we have,
not this today, it was the last time we were here.
Okay.
You know, with the elevation plan,
They're okay to get
as
rid
long
of
as
them.
David has those on record.
yep, this is what he has.
Okay.
This is what he gave me.
So those the current.
This is it right here, Daryl?
Well, all that changed with the additional propane tanks that they went underground.
That's it,
The lines to the
yeah.
building didn't change.
Oh, look, okay.
Okay,
Great.
so we don't need the line locations,
Right,
you want the bollards?
Yep.
Okay, so,
and you can't bury tanks without that anyways,
yeah,
it's all
okay.
code.
Air conditioning,
So what do we have to do, we have to show them on here?
no, you have,
Okay.
you have the line. Air conditioning,
But what about the bollards? Do you want?
yeah, bollards.
So those, yes, not the lines.
So isn't that what these are, David?
No, that's the safety of the tanks. Right.
What's a bollard, Dad? Can you hear?
It's a big post that blocks anyone from driving over the tank.
Nobody can drive over them because they're in the middle of the, you can't even get there.
Everybody else does because they have their own lines.
Right. So you want us
I
to
could
put,
run home with a lawnmower. They have to pull 100 feet of hose to get to those tanks.
There are no bollards.
Did they put them out there? Oh, they're out there,
They-
or the ballards out there?
I mean, I can put.
Yeah, I thought.
So there are
valves for
none?
the safety.
There are none? There are no bollards?
Valves on the,
No,
that's.
They don't show them.
So then
That's
don't,
Yeah.
don't show them. Okay,
There are not, I just
No.
figured there might be some.
okay,
Okay.
so don't show what isn't there.
It's the,
Okay.
yeah, the only thing that could.
All right, so in terms of the fuel storage and distribution lines, we're okay.
She wanted us to show
No,
last
no,
time we were here.
no, if they ask, if there are ballards, they want them on the site plan. If
Okay,
we don't have any
understood.
ballards, we don't need to.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Air conditioning, are we okay with air conditioning? Okay, a fire protection and response plan, we have that from you.
We have that, and hopefully Mike will update it, but we
Okay,
have
so
the one for
that's-
the original.
He's on notice, right? So we're good with that. I mean, in terms of what we're saying on this. Rights of way and traveled surface of all fronting streets.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Landscaping plan, including buffering plans along adjacent properties and public highways, such plan to include consideration of surrounding land uses.
There's nothing.
Hasn't changed.
Nothing's changed. Okay, so,
The only question I would have is if the the board is concerned about, the front of the or patio to the front of the property, and that's, you know, again, for your guests, you know, do they want the view of the road, or do you wanna screen? And if you're going to screen, then it would probably be good to have it on the plan to,
I don't think I'm gonna screen.
Plan on screening.
And then just have a nice little gate right here, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Where the hole is now, right now.
so,
So,
if there's gonna be no changes.
so,
I'm
some,
okay with it.
not gonna, okay, so we're good with that. Okay, existing and proposed grade drainage system structures and topographic contours and intervals not exceeding with blah, 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 blah.
That's all set.
That's what we got, yeah. Okay, existing and proposed method of handling water runoff.
That was
It's
John's
in-
letter.
all in there.
Yep.
Direction of flow of the runoff through the use of arrows.
Yep, that's done in there.
Okay. Location, elevation, size of all catch basins, dry wells, drainage ditches, swales, retention basins, storm sewers, culverts, manholes.
Yeah, not a problem. The whole, because Jonathan has said that this is,
Oh. Engineering calculations used to determine drainage requirements, including alterations of existing drainage patterns due to such factors, blah, 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 impervious surfaces. Is that gonna come under the purview of the ZBA? Or not?
probably not gonna purview the ZBA, but I think if you look at Jonathan's letter,
It's not an impervious surface.
The parking lot is,
No.
it's not, oh, right, it's
It's
not,
not impervious.
it's not, yeah, okay, so it's not applicable.
Permeable, that's right.
Right, permeable, thank you, sorry.
Well, I mean, honestly, crushed stone, which is dirt, it doesn't really.
But it's considered impermeable, I mean,
Well, I don't know if it doesn't function that way, but it's not asphalt.
right.
Asphalt.
Shape, size, building, 1 to 20?
Yeah.
Okay. Shape, size, dimensions, elevation, location of existing proposed structures on the property, that hasn't changed.
that has not changed.
Showing conceptual plans and elevations of all proposed structures, that's not changing, right? We're good with that?
Yep.
Federal, state, and local approvals, you've got something from the DES, and you're satisfied with
I'm
that?
satisfied with this.
What was the issue with the well and the 50-foot setback, David?
There is an issue with the parking lot being within 50 feet of the well. You said you backed off.
Yep.
Again, I just, not knowing if the scale is correct, when it scales out,
Right.
it still seems that to the west, that's still within the
Right.
the 50 feet.
Yep, but that's not parking at all, that's just, that was old existing road to the town well. That's all.
What are you talking about there? He's talking about right here, isn't he?
Right, but I took out one parking spot, yeah, this one right here. This was old gravel, old hardback to the
To the town well.
town
Is that
well.
what you're suggesting, that this is the distance from here to this driveway?
Yeah, I'm looking at the red line and the
Red
distance.
This one right here.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is, okay, for,
Yeah.
I see.
Then this one I put up 50 feet, I took out a parking spot, moved that one
Daryl,
up the
he's
hill.
saying from here to here.
I know that, yeah, yep.
And so that, I'm not sure how to resolve that.
Do you wanna,
Right.
do you wanna go out and measure it and say you can't, basically put flags where you
Well,
can?
my concern is when you look at the parking area having people drive around with the flow,
Yep,
you can't remove a whole lot of that, that's part of the driveway,
right.
which is
But that
still
wasn't
considered
that
part of.
already existing?
It may have been already existing, but
Right.
still, the state does not allow for that to be,
So this is a state issue?
this is a state issue.
All right, well, we have to,
Can't you just put some rocks 50 feet away from the well and then people won't drive
Well, then we
there?
gotta move this whole thing over.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think you gotta protect your well water and have it according to the state.
well, we don't have any choice
Right.
when it comes to the state. So
Right.
you're gonna have to comply with the state.
Right. So we can ask them if it's good enough, if cars are driving around it, because nobody parks there.
But it's driveways and parking lots are
Right,
part of,
right.
are, you know, they're concerned about runoff from driveways, parking areas.
Yeah.
It's the whole, everything is, so,
Right.
you know, the state will have an issue with the, you know, whether it's been there for a while or not, and they didn't find it,
Right,
you know, it's still going to be an issue.
All right, so under 8, federal, state, and local approvals, what are we saying here?
I said, we need to, this needs to be, issue needs to be resolved, however,
The 50-foot
the
issue?
50-foot issue, that there needs to be a, I would like to see on the plan a 50-foot
Right.
radius,
Okay.
and then see that it's
I
out.
think that's what you gotta do.
Okay.
Where you rely on overflow parking, it would be good to make it so that people couldn't pull up right next to the well, park there.
Nobody ever has, and, I mean, so far, so the 2 years that we've lived, nobody back there.
I know, but people, they're desperate, because they're happy to be there and they wanna get to their event, they don't wanna be, and so I think that,
Just build some stones around the grass.
yeah, just
Yeah,
looking
that's
at
probably the
some
simplest thing.
large
They're not gonna
stones.
drive over some rocks,
Right.
so.
And,
What-
you know,
Along,
we hope
along
so.
the edge of the grass here, just put some stones that's sticking up out of the ground, they're not gonna drive over those, they'll probably die. It's the easiest
Okay.
fix, it costs us nothing.
So copies of each and all federal, state, and local permits and approvals.
We have all
We
those.
have those. I guess with the, I mean, with this same. Okay. The board may require such additional information as it deems necessary in order to evaluate the proposal. I think we went through we got the ramp, the fence, the door, lights on patio, and anything potential that you'd like to do, and including the access ways. Okay, so, does anybody have anything else?
If you haven't already selected the lights for the patio, it'd be really nice if they were direct down, sharp cutoff. Just because that's what our regulations say, and I think it's considerate for people who live in the common area. Not to have.
Well, that is what the regulations say, so that would be good.
So just so I understand what those are, let's say they were Edison bulbs. If they were direct down and had something on the exterior, so the light can only go downward, that would be acceptable.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Going once, going twice, 3 times gone. Okay, so you have your checklist, we get to look at this more closely, and we all come back and do it again.
Should we need to take a vote that it's incomplete?
And continue,
And
okay, so,
then
and
continue to a.
can we do them both at once, or we have to
So
do they have to be 2
can you ask
separate
them what they
motions?
need on this, if they can send us a list before we come back and then have
We
to
have
come
it.
back
We
again?
have it.
No, but if you guys, sit down and meet on this again before we come back, can we know if there's additional stuff rather than?
We don't talk about it, why don't we copy that, so Tammy can. put it-
Yeah,
I guess our ask is, other than what, other
And
than,
then-
so let me finish, like, what, other than what we discussed today and what that list provides, we should be able to operate under the understanding that we won't be asked to produce any additional documentation by the next meeting.
I would like to think so.
Okay. And if you guys do meet separate from this and anything else does come up, we could expect.
We don't.
We don't,
talk
we
about
can't.
it.
Okay, so there's, then there should be nothing else. If we are able to finish this checklist, contact the state about.
That would be my great hope.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, I have the target. and
Yeah,
stuff.
no, that's what I would ask.
And
Yeah,
also the zoning board for the,
yeah, you're gonna have to go to the zoning board.
And that's fine.
Okay,
so you
so,
know, I'm out tomorrow and we're closed on Monday, so Tuesday will be
so David, you'll be, I mean, this scrawling, you know how to read my handwriting, you don't. So you can convey what
Yeah.
you
What I can
think
do
this
is
means.
I can
You can
scan that
translate
and I
it.
can email it to you, so you know.
Yeah, I think I got most of it.
Well, what it is, I'll tell you again, it's the ramp, the fence, the door, lights on the patio, sharp cutoff, and show anything that you would like potentially to do, and including access ways.
The 50-foot radius around the well, so that's,
Oh, and the 50-foot,
Would it be appropriate too, so let's say like the dream is to have that trellis, if for some reason the trellis is inappropriate, having a backup plan as well that you guys could review?
that'd be great,
Okay.
and you can just, add these as notes.
Yeah.
Just write it out.
Great.
This is what this means, this is what that means. Okay,
We'll
Alright,
touch
so-
base with you on Tuesday about getting rid of the ZBA and.
yeah.
okay. So I'd like to make a motion both to consider the application incomplete and to have a continuance. Do I have a second?
Did you say it's complete or
Incomplete.
Incomplete.
And to have a continuance to what date?
That's going to be interesting. I think you're gonna be looking into January only because the ZBA, they would have met next week, and there's no time to send out notices under the state rules, so we're looking at the December, which would be the 20th of December. You guys meet the 13th, so the ZBA is not gonna meet until the week after. Making the assumption that you're not gonna meet Christmas week, or that would be the 27th.
I'm willing to meet that week.
Yeah, I can
That's two.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe is
A
good.
little ways out, isn't it?
Rusty?
do that.
That's a quorum. And if you don't care, I just assume not meet, but if you want, what do you want?
We're all
Do you-
getting done, right?
So you'd rather,
Let's do it.
thanks a lot. All right, so that's a commitment for,
I'm not.
no, I know you're not, but that's a
It's
commitment.
probably better too. Everybody does a lot better when I'm not here, so it'll be.
That's not true.
So, it's.
Oh, come on now.
Come on now.
So that, Rusty, you're in, and I'm
So it'll
in.
be a regular meeting.
It'll be a regular meeting.
Right.
So that's the 27th of December and the 20th of ZBA, if you can get us in.
We can get you in, that's not gonna be a problem, there's plenty of time to get you in on that.
Okay.
Okay, so that motion was to deem the checklist incomplete and to continue the hearing to December 27th.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Quiet.
All those opposed? All right, we'll see you on the 27th.
Christmas present.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
How you doing?
All right. You have my family on the 27th.
All right.
Oh, we'll take care of that, you can come do this, okay?
I'll bring them.
All right.
That's good.
Okay, come on down. David, did we ever do a checklist for this?
Yes,
And you
you
have-
started one, yes, and,
We did on the first one, right, not on the second. We did it with the 5 lot.
Yeah.
here's
And
the first one, and here is a blank one if you wanna start all over.
I think we want to start.
Let's
over.
start over.
I
Okay.
think that's the 8 or 10 page one, the big long one.
Oh, God. All right, well, get comfortable. All right, so this says 11/8, that's not right. Oh, no, it is it? Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking,
I thought I changed
no,
the date.
you're right, I got it wrong. Okay, anything that you wanna say before we get going?
So I'd like to talk substantially about it would be great to have this approved today. And then we also have a few questions about lot size averaging. So that's my plan for the evening.
One thing I would just point out is at the last meeting, we had agreed to a whole number of waivers. That was probably the one that David gave you that had the markup on it.
On the
Yeah.
waiver?
Just so that, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to go through that again, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I gave you the,
Right, well, we'll go through the whole thing and just mark those. Or I guess I could use this, or can I not use this old one? I better not, okay.
my only concern
I
is
know,
that
yeah.
you started with a 5-lot subdivision,
Right,
gone
no,
to
we
4
have to go.
lot. And just, there's been
Okay.
enough changes that,
You're right, okay. So, all right, names and, oh, anything that on the board people want to say before we go to the checklist? I take that as a no? Okay. All right, so we're good with the names and addresses. We're, I have a note here that
there need to be 2 other,
there needed to be
several other, I think, 3 other.
noticed.
Yep, those have been noticed.
Okay, so we're good with that.
We are good with that.
And then the maps, no and no. And topographic maps are no, or what?
Um,
So we have a yes.
Yeah.
But why do we have provide 10 blue and black as no?
Oh, we had no because they were colored. And then,
All right, well, but that's a yes.
but well, it's.
Or
again,
no,
it's- No, because it's,
They're
that's
colored.
what are required for
Okay.
recording, blue
Okay.
and black. So,
All right, I will put a note with color. And we have that, okay. Conservation district, we got the 10-year parent lot, so we're good with that, right?
yep.
And we said not applicable, in terms of the scale.
It was the scale we had discussed because of it's such a large lot.
Yeah,
that
it's just reasonable.
It makes more sense to show it as,
Yeah. But we do have the size per requirements of Grafton County. Okay, and we're good, I'm showing we're good with the next 3 items, the scale, complete boundaries, and location of zoning districts. Okay, and we're good with Lyme conservation boundaries, et cetera. And then under soil types, we had a no, but we have those now. I mean, that was the test sites. Surface and water drainage is good.
Need a perk test?
Yeah, they're on there now.
they are on there now.
Right.
Okay, subdivision layout map. We have not applicable. Does that make sense to everybody? A lot size average subdivision, not applicable, this is a conventional.
Right.
All right, size per requirements, we were good with that. Scale, no longer. Parent lot has been added, right?
Yes.
We good with that? Oh, wait a second, say, now, number 3. We had a no, be prepared, signed and certified by New Hampshire licensed land surveyor. We're good with that, right? Okay. 4. All right, complete boundaries, yes, the parent lot was in at 5. We had a no for existing and proposed street right-of-ways, what was that about?
I think that was,
Might have been with the road or something,
Is it the
oh,
layout?
it didn't show any of the driveways either. But I'm
but
sure
now,
that's,
now we have it.
yeah.
Okay, 6, was only if recorded. 7, location of existing proposed easements and showing that as to come, that's, we got that.
Yeah, and then if you look there, the new, at least I saw wells on,
We did show,
Okay.
show the easement area.
and we had not applicable for parks and such. 9, location of existing and proposed utilities, we had to come. So we got those? Is
We've
that
shown
it?
the
Yeah.
4K septic areas.
Okay. Location of zoning district boundaries, we had a no, and it's a note that says driveways, et cetera. But we're good with that now?
Driveways are in.
Okay, 11, you needed to notice,
Yeah,
you did
that's been taken
that.
care of.
Okay, site location map showing location of proposed subdivision in relation to the general area, so,
Very front page.
so we have that. Yep. All surface waters, you said we'll add,
I think that is,
And it's shown here, right?
And all the wetlands are shown as what's pond.
Existing conditions,
Um,
there's all the wetlands, yeah.
is that a yes? I mean,
Yes,
people,
yes, that's
help
like
me,
the road
speak,
is there.
speak with a
Yes.
conviction. All right, property setbacks.
yes, those are now on.
Those are good?
Yep.
Okay, watershed map. It said drainage of road, et cetera. Are you good with that?
We showed the grading and conceptual area for stormwater, I think that's what they agreed to, we weren't gonna do a full drainage analysis.
All right, so that's, everybody's good with that? Okay. Final plat, we had not applicable.
Yeah, because,
It's,
right, because you're not intending
Right.
to.
lot size and density calculation, we
Yep.
had that as a yes.
Yeah.
Traffic and access, you said you would supply. And that's what the note says.
I think we included the driveway permit with that package in the response. But we also did,
Well, you added the parent lot, which is what I was interested in seeing. So, I mean, do people want more?
I don't see a reason to
Okay.
full access to Route 10. I mean,
So-
10 would be
so it's a yes.
Adequate for,
Okay. Provide any required local state, will supply state service permit? What's this, that one?
Driveway access.
yeah, the subdivision.
No, there was, you had a permit for a new permit for the driveway that the state had approved you were gonna supply.
Yeah, that's what I thought we did. We got it, and I thought we sent it to,
Yeah, because the driveway now is going where it is now.
Right, it was a change in use, permit that they got a while back for, many
Okay.
more units with DOT.
So do you have that, David?
I'm looking at
Okay.
it just to make sure.
Yeah, should have the car.
I do not have that.
Okay, so,
state change of use permit, that's what you think.
state,
Yeah, it was for the driveway, and we had, the state has it, and we have a copy of it. We put in the driveway where it was proposed previously. It's in the same location as the existing driveway.
Right, because originally it was a little bit to the south.
Right, and so we've moved it on the plan here, and, I think that if we were to move forward with this application and this subdivision, a new DOT driveway permit would be required anyway as part of that approval.
well,
So
it's
gonna be-
it's just, it'd be good to give David a copy.
Yes. And I think if I don't know if I can bring it up.
Wait a minute. Got it.
David has a copy. All right, so that's a yes.
That's a yes.
We're done with that.
I keep everything and I don't throw it all away, so sometimes going back through to find everything is.
Okay, so we're good with that, we're moving on to 5. Sewage disposal, and have a note that says leach field areas for each lot, we have that now.
Do we have perk test results?
We do.
Yeah, they are actually.
We said not applicable to, in addition to locating existing septic system, statement from septic designers is conditioned, because they're not doing it.
There's not existing systems.
Provide, you said you will provide all soil tests, including dates, locations, percolation rates, you did that, right?
Yep.
Okay. These are just a little bit different, so it's.
Yeah.
All right.
All the items are the same. I
Yeah, it's
fixed
just
some
like,
of the
why,
formatting.
it's mind-bending. Okay, we had a waiver on the water supply plans, because, same reason as usual. Public water supply systems. No, that's where we, I'm sorry, that's where we had the waiver. We had, and we also waived everything in this section.
Yep.
So, man, this, having this off a little bit is like just not helpful.
Sorry about that.
With your 3D glasses.
Yeah,
I changed the format to try to make it clearer, so I apologize.
yeah, no, it's not, that's not your, it's because we're never working off of an old one, so. We'll show drainage plan for road, and if recorded, okay, so
Yeah, that's,
we have the drainage.
Yep.
And, if recorded,
there'll have to be an easement for the drainage along the road, and so that would have to be.
easements necessary. Okay. I'm sorry, this is, yeah, okay. The computation of rate of runoff, we waived. Computation of stormwater, waived. And D, drawing specifications, we waived, but with the if recorded, et cetera. Okay. Eight. Okay, analysis, we waived. Preservation of open space, we waived. Recycling and solid waste disposal, we waived. Police protection, waived with the if recorded thing. Fire safety.
That again, I did contact Mike Monday, he has seen the plans, he asked a couple of questions about the size of the tank, the cistern. And then also asked about the possibility of a dry hydrant going into the pond that they could access, which would be preferable to him. But in talking with him, again, my concern, and I believe this was with other conversations I had in the past with Mike Kinsley, that they determined that the pond doesn't drop off fast enough over there to put a dry hydrant in. You basically, you have a big metal piece that sits on the bottom of the pond, that sits above the pond, above the bottom, so that when you start pumping water, you're not sucking all the silt in. because that sits above, you have to have it deep enough so the boats don't hit it.
Right.
And deep enough that when you get ice, the ice doesn't come down and freeze it up completely also. So there are some depth issues. And he was going to talk to Mike Hinsley about it, and that was the last I heard. So
what does that mean?
we're still trying.
So that's to come?
I would say to come, it's,
Okay.
So we don't know
Well,
what the minimum
but,
is.
wait, the dry hydrant,
Well, he was asking about the cistern, also the size. I told him what the required size would be. And he still wanted to pass it through Mike Hinsley to make sure that,
Can this also be contingent upon filing?
Yeah, I think the answer
That's
could be, we.
fine with me. Well, let me see. Is that, what does the board think? Other members of the board?
He's
Well,
supposed to be getting back to you, right? Mike's supposed to be
he's supposed to, it's not always easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard getting
Not always
the fire
in a
chief.
timely
Right.
manner.
Is the dry hydrant required if he says it's required?
Well, I think it would be a negotiation. He may find, you know, the cisterns are, they're least preferable.
Can we say, if recorded?
I have no issues with that.
Does anybody on the board have issues with the if recorded?
I think
I mean, we should get it, but
I think that if this is not going to be built.
that gives us the protection, we're saying if recorded.
Yeah,
So where was the location gonna be?
of what?
Cistern
It's going to be in the cul-de-sac.
in the cul-de-sac, and did we establish that it's close enough based on the amount of hose?
Oh, absolutely. In talking with Mike, he said that there wouldn't be an issue with the hose lay. The only issue he brought up is that the two southernmost buildings, it would be difficult to, you would have to do a hose lay up here,
So what are you saying, like along the road,
or, yeah, well, basically from
the cul-de-sac?
from the driveway, the first driveway up to
Yep.
the cul-de-sac to get to that cistern.
Yep.
And then another hose lay into whichever house, so you're not gonna be able to do it in one hose lay.
Mhm.
Not necessarily a huge issue, but typically where you have a juncture like that, you have to put a truck.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I think the pump truck would be there.
Well, you would have to have three trucks, because you would have, the first truck, ideally, when the first truck arrives, they're going to lay from the beginning of the driveway in,
What do you mean by in, just?
into the
Into
structure.
the house, yeah?
The second truck, when it arrives, is going to lay from the end of the driveway up to the cistern.
Mhm.
And they'll set their pump to pump from the cistern. Depends on the elevation change in here, whether they need to just attach the hoses together and have enough push to get the water up here, or if they're going to have a relay pumper here. And that's, and without seeing the real elevation change, you're looking at, the truck pumping from here, he's going to be able to draw no higher than 32 feet. And that would be, with an ideal vacuum that you're not gonna get.
The circumstances are the same with the dry hydrant, however, and the dry hydrant's gonna be further away.
With the dry hydrant, but you're gonna be pumping and pushing it. And yes, you would be pushing from here also, so,
It's the same thing.
yeah, I think you would be, the only difference with a dry hydrant down on the post pond is that you basically have an unlimited supply. And that's the real benefit.
Which is what he wants to.
And, well, two reasons he wants it is, that one is, three actually, unlimited supply, easy to maintain. A cistern, if it's leaking, you'd have no idea if it's leaking unless somebody checks it, and that will be up to the owners to check it on a periodic level to make sure that it's leaking or not leaking. If it is call the fire department to come fill it up again. And then the other part is that when you're down on the road like that, if you have to bring water to another scene, having a dry hydrant right next to the road that you can put a pumper on, you drive your tanker up, fill it, and go. It's just a nice wide open area, it's very easy to access it. And then a cistern up here, once you pull all the water out, you're done.
So what are we saying? Saying to come,
My feeling is that if this is not going to be recorded, not going to be built, asking the fire chief to, he's busy, you're asking him to provide a lot of information that may never come to anything.
but I mean, he was talking about, well, you tell me, but my impression from what you're saying is he wasn't saying, no, this is
No,
not
he was
good.
not saying, no, this is
Okay.
impossible, he just,
So why don't we just say that it's to come, if recorded, they'll need it, but we wanna get it anyway. We wanna-
It being dry hydrant or the cistern?
No, his input, Mike's input.
Okay, well, we need that, but, and then the applicant would need to provide you with the dry hydrant. or
Yes,
cistern.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
but that's only, I think was only if recorded.
If
this is-
recorded.
Well, right,
Yeah.
and that's the worst case, but in the worst case,
Yeah.
make that clear,
Yeah,
But it's not a total waste of Mike's time to look at this, because something's gonna get built here.
Right.
It's gonna need to have a fire protection plan.
Right.
and we,
That may be, that may be a dry hydrant anyway.
and like with all of these things, I mean, the reason we're waiving these things with the proviso is because they could decide they wanted to build it. Or they could sell it and somebody else might wanna build it. So we have to have these provisos.
And I think, if you do go the other way through lot size averaging subdivision and you build something along those lines, then you absolutely need to have it because,
Oh,
for
yeah,
that.
but we're not there yet.
Right.
Okay,
So this road is plenty wide enough for emergency vehicles to pass, yeah, because it's 18 feet wide.
okay. Existing and planned, land use, we had as waived?
Yep.
Okay. Impact of subdivision, we had waived. But shouldn't these be with provisos?
I would think so.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna put, instead of writing this out every time, I'm gonna put proviso. Okay, so you'll know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, construction plans, we had waived with proviso.
Yeah.
The profiles, we had no, but we need those.
And those are provided.
Those are good, and
The cross
C,
sections.
typical sections, and we got those.
We have those now.
Okay, D, details we had waived with provisos. Performance and surety not applicable. So, if anybody disagrees, please speak up.
Well, I mean, if they're putting in a new road, I mean, the road would need to go in first before the lot could be sold.
So, with proviso?
Well, yeah, I mean, just, they would need to, yeah, they would need to put in a,
Okay,
that would be a condition.
right.
And, I mean, they could give us security for that, we don't really want it.
But we're not, yeah, so with proviso. B, we said yes. Give me a second, hold on, this, goddamn, B, so B, engineer shall furnish to the board an estimate of the full course
That was not applicable.
Do we, is that a proviso? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think anything that's waived or not applicable.
Yeah, what, all right, so I'm gonna put in these provisos, anything that I might have missed,
Yeah.
should have a proviso.
That's, let me understand this, that's up on the list for a subdivision, but don't we cover that with the building permit?
Well,
So
if this is,
I'm curious why it's in this list and not on just a building permit, because the cost, we asked for the cost on a subdivision plan?
yes, because,
If we're gonna hold security
If
for
you're
the
holding-
road or
For the
the
road,
cistern.
I got the road, I
Well,
thought
you-
this was construction.
No,
I didn't hear
no,
what-
we don't-
Subdivider's engineer shall furnish to the board an estimate of the full cost of all improvements.
All improvements, okay.
Sure.
I thought it was just the buildings, I was.
yeah, no,
No.
just the
If
building.
they were giving us a, tax impact study, they estimate the cost of the buildings
Right.
and that, so.
Okay, so C, the planning, this is a proviso, planning board may endorse acceptance of the bond, et cetera. All right, title matters. We've got a yes on the most recent deed to the property, and all present or proposed easements, we have that. All right, submit, a copy of all the applications.
That would just be the highway one.
Okay, but we had, all of these are provisos.
Yeah.
And the highway one,
We have,
we have that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right, so all, we have, basically have all of these as provisos, and we had national flood was not applicable.
not applicable at all.
Okay, that was easy. Just so I never look at this thing again.
Did you give them the right one or the wrong one?
Fish and game. Well, if they do it, we'll go at it, we'll review it at the time. Okay, so no, I don't, whatever. Fish and game, no.
We needed to look into the deer yards or whatever, but we don't need to.
Okay,
That's what I think it should.
okay. All right. So, board, any questions, comments? No? Nobody got anything?
It's not written down. This, the cul, it's, the driveway's less than 1,000 feet, is that right? We determined, or 1,200 feet.
Because you would brought it back the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so my only question is everybody okay with the ag soils, going under the ag soils 464B and all that business? What do we do about that?
No, I think building on the outside.
Can we waive that?
No,
We can't? Because,
zoning,
is that zoning?
yes.
It's already fluid.
Yeah, because my feeling is, I'd like them to lot size average. And I'd like to get them there.
We can get them there.
I'd like to get the subdivision to lot size averaging, because I think that it's better for the town, 'cause I think it's better for them too.
Well, I look at this and go, the steep slopes are basically undevelopable anyway, so.
Well, we
it's
know
like-
that.
So it's essentially a lot size average in its own way. But, I don't see any other way for them to get 4 lots. I think that they've done a conventional subdivision that works.
Okay, so what are you saying?
I don't see any other way for them to put their buildings except on the local ag soils.
Okay, so you're okay with it?
I don't see how they could do it any other way.
No, I'm just asking for.
Am I okay with it?
So you,
I mean,
I'm
what-
asking
what
everybody on the
sense?
board for their opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Vicky, I mean, yeah.
Is the amount to be developed under the 25%?
I wonder for that first lot, the lot,
Not one.
yeah. Just because it was so so small after you subtracted all of the.
But a large portion of that lot is ag soils, though, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like the lead, that's
Yeah.
pretty convincing one to me.
Right, okay.
What we had tried to do was put the driveways and the developed areas outside the wetland buffers
Yeah,
first,
right.
outside the steep slopes for sure, outside the wetland buffers first, and then the ag soils are kind of what's left, so.
Yep.
Okay, so everybody's okay with the ag soils? This is what I'm
I think it's the best place to put them.
Yeah, I do too, I do too.
Or-
I just wanted to address it.
It's less than 3 acres too, right? Isn't it?
I don't know, is it less than 3 acres?
The,
Ag
the
soils.
total ag soils,
On lot one,
Well, one's got,
yeah, it's only has.
one's that looks like, probably,
Yeah,
On lot one is 124,000 square feet.
Ag soil.
it has
it's about 3 acres,
3 acres.
Mhm.
a little less than 3.
42 by 64.
Yeah, effective lot area 3.01.
okay?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's the only place that.
All right, so I'm giving everybody a last chance to say anything they want to say, or raise any issues. I'll take that as utter silence. All right, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move the application complete.
I'll second that, with the
Provisos.
provisos, the many provisos and other notes. I second that. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. You are complete. All right, now any discussion, questions? No?
No?
Would somebody like to make a motion? Don't, come on, I do all the talking here, somebody else. What?
I'll move that we approve this 4 lot subdivision.
Would somebody like to second that?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Get out of here.
Okay, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, there was clearly a lot of work went into it.
Yeah,
and really
and
was
I would like
responsive
to compliment
Yeah.
Will, first of all, for listening to all our different variations on jokes about Will. Second, for really, it was great to work from what you provided. If everybody did that, it would make our jobs a lot easier, so thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for the compliment.
So we did have some questions about
I'm
lot
shocked.
size averaging.
Gambling
Well, you were
at,
talking
gambling
about lot
at,
size averaging,
gambling
John,
at
so-
Rick's place.
The vote got recorded, so it's.
So, yeah.
So, for example, in lot size averaging, we have about 20,000 square feet of building footprint approved, a primary residential footprint approved. Because in that table that Vicky's got right there, there's a home that's 2,600 square feet, another with 45, 49, and 7,000.
I'll take your words
It's
for it.
referring to the total.
I'll take
On the
your
phone,
word.
the 4 lots.
And some of
Let's
those.
suppose that that's the case.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm frankly,
Okay.
I'm pretty fried right now, and you're
Okay.
asking, let's consider this an informal.
All right.
Because I'm not gonna be held to anything I say right now.
Okay, so, I have to say, I had a good chat with David, just yesterday. wasn't
Just
it?
yesterday.
To go through a lot of the details of lot size average, to make sure we had a good understanding. Were we to apply for a lot size averaging subdivision, because we do want to cluster, I mean, I think it makes sense to cluster in the southwest corner, which we keep talking about. Under what circumstances would we be able to get the full footprint for for all the buildings that we build?
Bonus lot.
What do you-
Not
The
the bonus lot,
residential
but that's
buildings.
I don't know exactly what you mean.
Okay.
I think you're looking at the aggregate of what you could build on the 4 lot subdivision. If you took the dimensional controls for each of those 4 lots and looked at the building footprint and lot coverage for each of those lots, and you're saying, how can we then aggregate that number to apply it to the lot size averaging?
Okay, so there are two things that pop into my mind immediately. One is, first of all, you expressed an interest in getting a special exception about some of those. But the other aspect of, is that I don't think we could, or I don't think I can answer that, that's just speaking for myself. Because, first of all, lot size, everybody, you're gonna have to get a majority of people who approve the lot size averaging subdivision, which isn't a guarantee, because it's permissive. And then, there's language in there about the planning board, I think, shall determine the size of the lots. And depending upon what happens with this, I don't exactly know how that would work out with the ZBAs, if they give you a special exception. I mean, what are your thoughts about?
Well, my thought is, they would design a 4 lot, well, actually, I would assume you would design a 5 lot subdivision, asking for the bonus lot. And then you would,
Well, what if they're rejected for the bonus
I
lot?
wouldn't waste their money.
Yeah, I mean,
you wouldn't, okay.
I wouldn't, because, I mean, unless you want to do 2 scenarios. Because if you're rejected, then you gotta go all the way back to the drawing board.
Right.
What,
Wait, why would we have to go back to the drawing board?
If you submitted a 5 lot size averaging, plan, and you didn't get the bonus lot.
I see what you're saying, we would just have to redesign everything,
Right.
again, yes. Yeah. Right.
then, I guess, where would you have the discussion for that additional lot?
The bonus lot.
That's
When does
what I
that
think
get
they're
determined?
trying to get at, is how do we determine whether they get the density bonus before we design it, so we don't have to do it twice.
I don't know that you can. I mean, I think you present, I mean, I guess we could, no, I don't know how we could, without seeing a plan.
Well, that's what-
Or I suppose we could have a hearing where we I mean, how would we do it?
My thought was that they would submit a plan for 5 lots. and the board, you know, would decide whether that fifth lot was acceptable. You know, there's some criteria for, basically, if that, I forget exactly how it's worded, but to the effect that if there's a good enough reason for giving that fifth lot, you know, if they're going to give up something or provide the town with a benefit, and the board
Yeah,
feels that that benefit.
I just don't, I don't want them,
What would be the benefit?
That's
So the question is,
yeah.
what
yeah,
would?
yeah, I mean, I don't want, I think you have a pretty high standard to meet to get the bonus lot. So I don't want, I wouldn't want you to go ahead assuming that you're gonna get it, and then find out you don't get it, and then you have to start all over.
So you have to start all over and you can't just whittle it back to 4 lots?
So that's where I was
Yeah.
thinking that it would be,
Well, if it, I mean, fine, if that's, if, just so that you know
that,
that,
like, I don't- that
that's-
was obviously not a guarantee, but, without knowing, you know, the board needs to at least look at what they're asking for
sure.
that additional lot, and what it is that you're going to, you know, provide the town as a benefit for, or what the town gets as a benefit for giving.
That's a given, but I'm just
Right, but
saying that I
there's-
want them to be fully aware that,
Because if you, present a 4-lot subdivision, at what point in time are you going to have the
you know,
conversation?
I don't know. I
It
don't
seems
know.
to me if you do a 5-lot
That's-
subdivision and then have that conversation, you may have to scale.
They can do whatever they want, I just want them to understand that if that scenario, the scenario comes into play where you don't get the bonus lot, you'll have some extra work.
Okay. And then, but then once you get the decision on 4 or 5, however many lots in the configuration that you want, and I think that's completely up to you as to how you wanna design that. And then present it to the board, find out if the board, again, this may be something that a preliminary review
Yeah,
is a good thing.
I would really
Right,
suggest a
right.
preliminary.
Yeah,
Because we could do a fairly, quick layout plan to get an idea of what we're talking about before we go into a lot
I would
of detailed
suggest it.
design. And that might be one way to approach that.
And then once the board approves your lots, you now know what your lot coverage and your building footprints. You'll also be able to ask the board if they will reduce the internal setbacks so that you can do the clustering. Then, you know, as we had talked, we need to also make sure that the lots are approvable under the state standards, which the state has some, you know, if you're going under 5 acres.
Oh, the state subdivision rules.
Right, there's, based on, and you'd be able to do the calculations because it's based on soil
Slot loading, yeah.
and the slope.
When we spoke, that was primarily a septic?
It's pretty much a septic, because it is the Subsurface Systems Bureau that does the subdivision approval. Say that one 10 times fast. But I think making sure that the lots are big enough for that, and big enough to give you as much lot coverage and footprint as you can get, I would assume. And then if that is approved by the planning board, but the lot coverage and footprint is not suitable for your needs, then you would need to apply to the zoning board for a special exception.
Right.
To ask them to increase that. I think that's the,
So in this scenario, we're still talking about doing it without the zoning board by making weird shaped lots. Is that correct?
well, when you say weird shaped lots,
What is that?
Well, I just can picture that
We were
they're gonna be
talking-
really weird shaped, right? If we're trying to have 4 or 5 buildings right next to each other in the bottom corner of the lot, it's just inevitably
I think
gonna
Eric
end up
threw the
being these
pizza
weird
lots
snaky
and-
looking things to get all of the effective lot area
To maximize the effective
Right,
lot area.
I think I would have to see
yeah.
what it looked like to, but
So why don't you in the process work with David, and he can give you feedback on it.
So the other scenario we were talking about was that we could provide much smaller lots, but the zoning board would have to approve that effective lot area being somehow reduced, or what, there's a special exception we could get for that.
right, under the lot coverage and the footprint
Yeah,
section.
just
there
those
is-
two, not gross floor area.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, but, 14,000 square feet, that's a lot of square feet. We're not.
Really?
What, in total?
For a
Gross
building.
floor area.
For a building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and so how, it strikes us that we would want to be able to divide up the the footprint between the buildings as made sense, as opposed to requiring it to match, oh, well, there's a 2,600 square foot footprint for this home on the 5 lot subdivision, and then there's a different size for each of those. I mean, what's the mechanism for getting approval to have those be different sizes?
I think,
Is that the zoning, is that the
That
zoning
would, yeah, that would be
board,
the
or-
zoning
Yeah.
board, that would be a variance through the zoning board,
a variance,
because there's nothing in
Right.
the zoning.
that's what
that,
yeah.
I
because what-
see that lets you apply, the development rights from one lot to another.
I don't either. And particularly in lot size averaging where the planning board can, under certain circumstances, can put building envelopes and things like that. I think you have to go through the process, and we have to go through the process to see, and we have to see your plans. I mean, some of these hypotheticals are very difficult.
Without seeing what you're trying to make the buildings look like.
Yeah.
It's,
You
I
mean
was just-
more than a footprint?
well, I think not necessarily more than footprint, but footprint and location on the lots would be,
Yeah, I mean,
Bare
remember, even lot size averaging is not guaranteed, you have to get a majority vote, that's a may. So, all of these hypotheticals are hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Sure. But I mean, this is useful to go through these steps, the special exception from the zoning
No,
board,
yeah.
the fact that we might need a variance to be able to allocate footprint.
Yeah, I kinda thought that that was how you get around the that there's a special exception that the zoning board can essentially change
Yeah,
the
I
effective
would
lot
just,
area
I
required
would just
for a certain building
advise you to
footprint.
be a little bit careful, because I'll speak for myself, and again, I don't wanna be held to this, I don't want 3 years from now you to go back to the minutes and say, John said this, okay? So,
Look into the camera.
yeah, look, I don't wanna break the lens. You have to keep in mind that, I'll speak for myself, I'm gonna be looking at how does this work out well? I mean, I'd like it to work out well for you all, but I wanna see how it works out well for the town. So, it's really, when you start talking about variances and stuff, I do get a little bit uneasy, because the point of this is not for you to get around what we're after here. So, that's my comment about that.
and Will just actually made a very good point that when you're asking for the special exceptions for, from the zoning board, you could be asking for a special exception for a greater amount on one lot than another, to basically apply,
Right. So
So
it'd just
that-
be a way to distribute evenly, the amount of building footprint that they're allowed for the entire lot would just be distributed more evenly amongst the buildings as opposed to being.
And I would encourage you, I'll encourage you over and over again to read, 511, or whatever, because that is what should guide the board, and it's permissive, so it's in your interest to make sure that you're staying within the purposes and intents.
Can I ask a quick, I mean, I've pulled out just two things here, and I don't know if I'm missing anything else. First, and I wanna emphasize this, cause David, I was confused about it last time, and as incentive to conserve open space, the planning board may approve up to 25% more lots. So I
May.
understand that preserving open space is an important,
May.
right, but when I'm looking for criteria, it suggests to me that
Well,
preserving open space is criteria?
That is certainly a criteria, yeah,
It's a required criteria, right?
yeah,
And then the
So-
other thing is, most appropriate use of the land, which
Right.
is pretty broad, and I guess just you guys get to decide what's
Yeah,
the most
we do.
appropriate use of the land. To facilitate economical and efficient provision of public services, allow land use patterns which preserve agricultural soils,
right.
outstanding natural topographic and geologic features, do we have any of those?
Don't ask me.
All right, and to preserve the natural and scenic qualities of the open land in the town.
Read it.
Are there
Yeah, I
any
mean,
other, so that's
I'm
the
not,
criteria?
I don't have it memorized.
Oh, I'm just quoting,
You-
are there
well-
other sections? Okay, that's it.
You have the same information I have.
Do you have any guidance for us, other
Yeah,
towns
to
that have
follow
done
the
it?
criteria and to understand that, I'm gonna speak for myself, is that I'll be guided by what I consider is a good outcome. I'd like you guys to have a good outcome, but also a good outcome for the town, and that's what I'll be going by.
But if the planning board said the most appropriate use for the land is not to develop it, that would be within your criteria, within your
I
purview?
think the most appropriate, it depends.
Okay.
And so does all of those things apply.
Yeah,
And so, I
alright.
mean, you're asking questions that I'm not gonna answer them.
Okay.
This is simply
Alright.
put.
Rich, did you have a question about the single lot? Or you're not?
Yeah, actually, if we cluster on one lot, using 511D7, which says you can get multiple residential buildings on one lot, can we get reduced lot setbacks? And,
Wouldn't be any
There wouldn't be any
setbacks.
setbacks.
huh,
You're all on one lot.
You have the setbacks if you had a bunch of
true,
lots.
right. So actually, this question was, you're right, this is if, we had multiple, made small lots, we can get 0
No, because-
setback lot
Yeah.
lengths?
I was gonna say, there's separation distances, you need building code between buildings, so that's
Okay.
the lowest we could go.
Right.
But you're saying,
Could they touch? Could the property line go between and have them touch? There's obviously still fire rating between things that are deemed separate structures.
Again, I'll just tell you for myself, you wanna be careful about what you present.
Okay.
And that it's gonna be good for the town.
Right. Do you have any other questions?
No, it's good for the town.
Right.
What is that? I didn't
No,
understand the comment.
Crystal ball. No, I think that you had two questions. So is there any way we can cluster, either on one lot or with the pizza lots, that would allow the buildings to be close enough together that the walls could touch for energy efficiency?
I don't know.
I'm just
Off the
saying,
top
that's
of
a
my head.
huge runaround, the
Yeah, and I
I'm
would
sorry,
have a
what were you saying?
problem with that as
It's
well.
like a runaround
Yeah.
of the massing,
Yeah.
restrictions that we have in the zoning to go about it in this way, so I wish,
It
I
would,
wouldn't wanna encourage you to do
I
that,
wouldn't either.
but I can't say,
I think if you're going to ask the board for 0 setback, that the board would absolutely wanna know what they were approving. And not just say, oh, sure, you can have 0 setback, not knowing what's going to get placed there.
Sure.
I think that I don't think, I don't speak for the board, but I think.
I think that is accurate.
And when I do a search for massing in the zoning ordinance, I don't know, I don't find it.
Well, I think that's the reason why we have limitations on the height and building footprints. Because that then creates a mass that we allow on a particular lot. And if you're saying, well, I'm gonna take all the mass that would be allowed on 4 lots and put them all next to each other, I'm not saying that's it's a workaround from what the town standard is.
Yes, I'd be very,
So,
very mindful of that.
So if you wanna build, a lot size averaging is probably pretty much a challenge.
I don't wanna go down this road.
I won't make you say that,
You know,
forget it,
Lot size averaging is
never
about
mind.
smaller lots.
Yeah,
about
I
smaller
think
lots.
you're
It's
probably
about
not.
smaller, it's not about open space protection, it's about smaller lots. That's
It's
helpful.
about, it's about open
Smaller
space
lots.
protection. I don't really think this, the discussion is
that-
going in a
that was
beneficial
helpful.
direction right now.
Okay, sorry. I'll be done.
Is that all done?
Yep.
You have any questions?
I don't.
Okay,
Thank you, folks.
thank you.
Well, it's 10 of 9.
All right, we gotta do the minutes. Does anybody have minute stuff?
Let's let Will go and then you can grab that. Camera. We're not.
I had a question. On page 2, the first paragraph, maybe somebody can explain it, I didn't quite understand. The whole second part there, well, actually, there's a typo. The planning and zoning administrators, Strader stated that I think there should be his belief
Yeah.
in there. Was that the increased density option was not applicable to section 7 because no lots are getting created. And then increased density option would allow a developer to create an additional lot. The dimensional controls for the lot will be set for the size of the lot approved. If no lots were to be created, what does that mean?
I guess what I was trying to say, that, the idea of the bonus, the increased density option is if you're creating lots, you have the option of trying to, getting this bonus lot. If you're not if you're using, section 7 that allows the planning board to approve multiple residential buildings on a lot, you're not creating any additional lots, so there's no bonus. You're not, because you're not creating any lots, so there's no way of getting a bonus. And so there's no way of, because you're not creating lots, you can't determine dimensional controls for a lot that you haven't created. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can try to reword that.
Why don't you do that?
Yeah, if 4 residential units were approved by the planning board, the dimensional controls for those buildings would be limited by the maximum allowed for the lot. 4 residential units were approved. Yeah, maybe, yeah. 'cause
I can, because John and I talked about this also,
Yeah,
that,
it's not clear.
yeah,
Okay.
I will try to reword that a little bit better.
Okay.
And then the typo, maybe the next paragraph, the zoning ordinance does not provide for aggregating the totals from lots.
Thumbs going, actually.
What? Am I missing something here?
Nothing important.
No. No.
Would you like to share it with the rest of the
No,
class?
nothing.
Aggregating totals, the totals from lot, does lots need an S?
Yes.
Okay. And then, item 4, Rusty passed out.
He did, I don't
I
remember
did.
that.
Yeah, Rusty was passed
Don't-
out.
Not
And
again.
we- And we picked him up.
An
No,
email.
Rusty
Yeah.
passed out a ruling, maybe?
How about hand it out or no? Yeah,
Passed out a ruling from town council?
Or I was gonna say an email. 'cause-
Yeah,
Email.
whatever, yeah, okay.
And even that, well. Oh,
Did you-
yeah, no, it was the
Wasn't
email from
email.
that, but you asked for the question, so
Right.
I'll follow up after.
You gonna get us that question?
Well, I'll answer after we do the minutes.
Okay, that's exciting.
Well, that's all I had.
Okay, so, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes amended by Tim, thank you, and to be further amended by David.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Okay, go ahead, Rusty.
So I requested the question, that's what you asked me to
Right.
get. And unfortunately, the question was contained in an email of multiple questions.
So
which
can you just
I'm
cut
not-
it out?
Which I'm not, well, so Dina tried to do that. I wasn't sure that what I got for you is adequate to say, is this the, I don't know, are you looking for just,
All I
so the
just,
cut and paste, here's what happened, for me, when I read it,
yeah,
I'm like, I don't think this will satisfy John, because she could have just typed that up, I mean, it's a cut and paste.
oh,
It's
you
like-
mean, will I believe it?
Yeah, kind of.
Yes, I will believe it.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Well, then I'll get that, and then I'll share that with everyone, but.
Unless it says something like Martians are landing.
No, but it was just like, wait a minute, I thought you were asking for clarification of the, like, this is the actual email that was sent, this is the response to the email that was sent, which would show the date it was sent and who it was addressed to and all those things.
I don't-
She cut and
So you're either
pasted.
gonna make up a really good question.
Yeah, you're
or
gonna
you're
do-
gonna send us the right one.
Yeah, I mean,
Whatever.
that's
No,
out of my
that's
hands,
what the
I
question-
trust you to give me the
Okay,
Okay,
real.
well, I'm gonna
question
tell you
was being
that
answered.
it came from Dina, and I was like, okay, Dina, wait a minute, where's the email? When I went back to ask for the email, she showed me that it was stuff I'm not at liberty to share the rest of
I
the
don't want,
email,
I don't want you
I
to be at
think
liberty to
what
share.
John wanted was just, the attorney was asked a question, so he had to read something, so
Right.
what was that
Yeah,
question?
what
That
did
was
the
only
attorney
thing.
read?
Yeah, that was the other
That's
thing.
very
There's such a
simple.
thing as redaction, it happens
Just say,
all
give us
the
the
time.
redacted version.
Put the black lines.
I will actually back Rusty, because I talked to Dina,
Yeah,
and she
I-
told me the
that's
exact
fine.
same thing, that
That's-
it was part of a multiple
So
thread,
redact it.
and there was stuff that was not.
The stuff that we shouldn't see, we don't
I
want
got
to
it.
see.
Okay, well, I just wanted to report that to you, that
Well,
I
good,
did
thank
do
you.
that, and I will get you, we'll just.
Yeah, just
I
whatever
guess-
the attorney looked at to answer the question.
Yes.
I don't even see a problem with you just distributing that.
If you wanna just send that part to me,
That'd
and
be
I,
fine.
and
Is that
I
good?
don't,
That's fine.
Okay.
Dina did not tell me anything about what else was in there, I have no
It's
idea.
all about you.
Oh, no,
Probably.
she didn't. No, I had to go and see it because she didn't send it to me either. All she sent me
Okay.
was this.
This is
and I'm like,
fine.
wait a
Well, then it's
minute.
about you.
Well, no, I was like, Dina, I can't forward this, like, what are you doing? I need this.
Yeah, so anyway, that's fine,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got the questions for David regarding the Upper Valley Lake, I don't want to do their.
Regional
name.
Planning Commission.
Regional Planning Commission. I'll go first, okay? Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, so the first thing is please explain the maps, because it looks as if the lots were partially within, the lots that were partially within the common district were treated as being fully within the common district.
Yeah, so limit the build out to just the line cover.
Right, there.
So you
Well,
would like her to actually just cut?
I mean, the information is,
Just use the line cover.
but the information is actually valuable, I think.
Well, my question, there are lots that are partially in, the lot. How do you want her to deal with those? Do you want her to delete them? Do you want her to clip them to the Lyme Common District boundary?
Come back.
Okay, not all lots, the Lyme Common District does not follow lot boundaries.
Oh, it doesn't?
It does not.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Right,
It's a
right, well,
it's a dimensional thing.
Right, it's basically,
Yeah.
it was,
So far from certain distances.
right, you know.
All right, so,
So if you would like, I can ask her to either, if there's a lot that is partially in and partially out, to delete that lot. I don't think that's a good idea.
No, I don't either.
Because,
Just can she
to
use?
Dowd's
the
lot
margins
is
in?
one of
to
those,
use the lot,
the portion
within
of the
the-
lot within,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's easy enough to do for her because, you know, the GIS system, you
yeah,
put the boundary in, say, clip all this stuff out, and
okay, so
then,
that shouldn't be,
but so,
But wait a minute, isn't part of the study saying what can be done there, and aren't we basing it on lot sizes and everything else? So
well, you're,
by cutting out the land that is not in the common district, that's not really a true sign of what can be done on that lot, because you've taken the whole lot to do your dimensional
Well,
control.
we have it one way already, where she has included the whole lot, and now we'll have it, if it's just the common district.
Okay.
right,
I think-
And-
yeah.
right.
Okay.
well, and One of the,
Yeah,
when we were talking about this, when I talked to her about it, I said include them because the Lyme Common District, the rules are stricter than the rural districts. So if you have a lot that's split by the boundary, you can opt to have your lot treated under the stricter
if you want.
if you want. So, or you can have it just apply to the portion of the lot that's in that district.
Right.
So if you have, again, if you're splitting by a district, part that's in Lyme Common is governed by Lyme Common, so all the dimensional controls for that piece in Lyme Common. And then the part that's in the rural district is going to be governed by the rules of, so if you have, you know, your dimensional controls could be really messed up in the Lyme Common portion if it's a small part. But that's why you're given the option of applying it.
All right, so in terms of her, what we want is, we have, I mean, a bonus is that we got
all the lots.
all the lots, even
Yeah.
So just
outside,
recalculate everything with it, with the
within the
lots split.
constraints, basically.
Yeah.
So it would depend, David, where the building was put. In other words, if you had a lot that was in both districts, if you put the building in the rural district.
Yeah, but
then
we're not,
that would-
but we're not examining
Right,
rural
we're not.
district.
Right,
But
but
you-
he's saying that some of it
You-
might be in the rural.
Right, it could be in the rural district, but you could apply the Lyme Common rules to that whole lot.
Yeah, because these will be Lyme Common rules, as it
They're
exists.
more restrictive, therefore you could apply those.
Right, you can
Right.
Yeah,
apply the more
which
restrictive.
actually might end up being less restrictive, which
Exactly.
which is kind of a weird,
It is.
anyway, that's how it is now,
I see.
in the language, but,
Right.
I'll say, I'll have her do it again, clip the lots to the Lyme
Clip the
Common
lot.
District.
okay. And, you know, on the maps, it would be really helpful if the boundaries of the Lyme Common District were more clearly shown, because I had to put,
There's
put,
one.
yeah,
That's it.
and even that's hard to
What's the
see.
purple line?
I had to put tracing paper and, you know, trace it over and over again, and it's not easy to work with. And then she says the build-out assumes all affordable housing,
Yeah.
and I didn't follow that at all.
Okay.
And it would be helpful just to go over her process in terms, because I'm not sure I followed everything. I was a little confused between people or units, whether she meant people or units.
And yeah, I need to, a little better.
It says current residential occupancy. So are those people or are those units on page 2?
So is it current residential units?
Well, it could be properties, people, or units.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
really.
What's the term, that current
It
residential?
says current residential occupancy.
Yeah, like my lot is long. Well, I'm only one person, one house and,
What is the kind of unit as, too?
oh, I don't know, I guess that's one, I can't see the green.
So be that as it may, and then she has a thing that says parcels chosen. It is important to note that for senior housing, the parcels chosen to develop were not the only developable parcels. Due to limitation of the proximity of two senior housing buildings, parcels were chosen that allowed for the maximum total units, so a little confused about that.
Yeah, I had that same question.
That's at the bottom of page 2.
Let me grab my copy of that, just to,
Yeah, I was trying to figure that.
So maybe she always had the separation distances.
Maybe, I just would like, I
Yeah.
wanna have it clarified.
Well, she, at least she calculated or included that in her thinking.
So, does she meet with us at all?
Well,
That's the idea.
what I'm trying to do is get some questions, get them to her ahead of time so that she's not coming in blind.
Right.
Which makes sense.
So, all right,
But she's coming to answer these.
well, yeah, that's, the
I
intent is
certainly
to ask
hope
her to
so.
come,
Great.
and,
Okay, good.
so, John, where is this? Again,
This
on
is at
page-
the bottom, under summary results on page 2.
Yep,
Very last part.
okay, so this, yep, I see it.
I have a question on page 2. Or you wanna-
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, maybe you guys understand this, but in the, where it says residential units, unit analysis, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, a footprint was deemed acceptable for 6 units at 1,125 square feet. So, she's got 6 units with 1,125 square feet, so you'd have to have 4 floors to get enough, because then she says somewhere else that she's using 750 square feet as a minimum per unit. So you'd have to have 4 floors to get enough. You know, if you divide 6 into 1,125, that's less than 200 feet.
It's one unit, is at 375.
Yeah, but she got 6 units at
Is
1,125.
that times 6? No.
No, I think you have to divide the 6 into 1,125, that's less than 200 feet per unit. And then, so you'd have to have 4 floors to get enough square footage to make 750.
Yeah, then that's,
So I didn't understand that at all.
So,
Explain the paragraph.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot of this, she's writing in sort of a code, I mean, she's obviously gone to school for all this, and she's writing in a
Right.
code that I don't understand.
yeah, it needs to be.
It just needs to be explained
Right,
to
that's
lay
exactly,
people.
that, you know, these, what I'm gonna basically do is say, here are the questions that, or areas that the board had questions about. Let's set up a time for you to come talk to the board,
Exactly.
and just, but, you know, it's not any fun going to a meeting and then being blindsided by questions
Yeah,
without a
so
little
that's,
bit
so
of
now,
prep.
now you have the does anybody have anything else? No?
Oh, wait.
Okay, I'll wait.
The build out assumes all affordable housing, we already talked about
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess.
that. Okay, later on here, there's no page number, but she talks about current res unit are those units that were identified as residential according to vision.
That would
What
be,
does that mean?
that would be, that she went on to, Vision is a company that,
Oh,
it's
it's a
a
company,
software that we store all our tax
Oh, I thought it was
information.
vision,
No,
I
not
thought
a
she was,
vision.
okay,
It's
So-
our
I
assessing
didn't know.
Yeah, they're assessing
Okay.
software, so there's actually a website out there, you've been on it, John, that you can go to and look at
Yeah, well, that
anyone's
explains,
property.
I thought she was talking about a vision of something, yeah.
That's our online property values.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I didn't really understand, her max new unit ATT are based on current development, the current building stay as is, the estimate assumes maximum units, so it requires the building to be,
Or where are you?
add-ons.
'Cause I'm-
I think this is from prior, this is from the prior communication.
yeah. Building lab results.
That's from that old thing you sent.
Yeah, then I wouldn't worry, I
Yeah,
wouldn't,
Wouldn't worry
yeah.
about that?
Th-
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is, this
Is
is,
she-
cause she went from this to that,
yeah.
Okay,
so
because
those,
these are the definitions, she has got definitions of these.
yeah, but she changed, she
Okay.
changed them.
Okay,
All right, so we're good to
Well,
go?
I was just wondering, so this has got nothing to do with septic capability then,
It has
right?
nothing-
We have no
There's
septic
no-
information.
Okay, well, I know on my lot, I can't even have another bedroom.
Well,
And she's saying that I can have 6 units on my lot.
well,
So-
these are things we're gonna
So this is
have,
like way.
this is way over,
Way over,
yeah,
yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
okay, so,
It's interesting, actually looking at, the subdivision regulations for the state as far as trying to determine lot size. And they have a table that has minimum lot size, but it is calculated based on slope and the, permeability of the soil.
Yep.
And the data that we have from the USDA for the soil types, somewhere along the line, the permeability is not there.
Mhm.
I've actually gone and found it on the USDA website. I can't download a brand new set of data that has all that information, so I need to go through and do a table of all our soil types, and then go through on the USDA site and write down each one of the permeabilities.
Mhm.
Once I have that, the slope is available on
Right.
that.
Right.
And then I can go through and, based on soil type, figure out the minimum lot size that the state would allow,
Mhm.
which was going to get us kind of in a position to be able to determine how.
Well, your soil types will have a slope determination.
Right, they have the.
Anyway, so
right,
you
they do
don't
have,
have- yeah.
they have that, they don't have the permeability.
Right.
And so I need to,
Right.
and actually I do have, this huge, like, 6-tome set of books for the
Yeah.
Grafton County soils that'll probably also have them in there.
Yes.
So again, it's a matter of just going through each of the soil types in
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately not the agricultural soil district ones, it's all of the soil types, which there are hundreds.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, it's
Yeah,
just going to
I mean,
take.
this is only just giving us something to start working with.
I know it's very gross, but I mean, like for my lot is like 1.1 acre, but half of that's in the floodplain.
Yeah,
So it's like, well, there's that, and then I can't even have one more bedroom, so it just seems like great study, but if my lot, I mean, there's already 5 units we gotta take out.
exactly.
For my lot, and, so I'm hoping we could think about these lot by lot. I mean, some of these are gonna disappear because they're not really in the
Right.
district, so there's gonna be a lot less land area, so that's gonna really reduce
A
the
lot,
build out, a lot.
But if it's overestimating your lot, the build out capability on your lot by 500%,
Right.
that's.
That's a significant
That
number.
leaves a lot of room
Mine's
for
a
error.
very challenged lot, I mean.
I know, but they're
Well,
probably
I think
ones
they
like
have a lot, you're not alone, there's a lot, in
Yeah.
downtown,
Yeah.
everything has already got something on it for the most part, there's
Yeah.
very little that doesn't have something on it. And then if you take all of our other requirements, you can't really add
Well,
something to it.
I mean, what I wanna see is what there is.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
and then we can winnow it down from there.
Right,
But without the septic, we're never gonna
No,
know
I know,
really
but even if we
accurate.
can just go, okay, this lot, that lot,
Yeah.
that lot, we know this is probably about right, or we need to
Exactly.
modify this.
Or if we
It's
see, well,
impossible.
here's a
So-
lot that would really
Right.
lend itself.
Right.
And we take a close look at
Right.
that lot and we
Right.
ask the person who lives there what they know,
Right,
we can
right,
make it.
so I think this is a great start.
It's a start.
And we just need to do a little more ground truthing to it.
Yeah,
does this have a list of each of these properties?
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
back, there's a
yeah.
list. There's a-
Oh, yeah,
there's a-
there,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
When all is said and done, we should get the actual spreadsheets that.
Yeah.
so can you add that?
yeah, I mean, working with them is really, great that she's putting all this together for us, it's awesome.
It is. We just have to understand it. Okay, I'd like to,
Actually get all the data, including the mapping,
Right.
because, yeah, I can modify that also.
Right.
So now, once we have all that base data,
it's
even
just,
if
it's
at
just
some
good
point
for
in
the
time,
town
let's say
to
they've already
have.
spent all the time. And so, at some point in time, we're probably gonna get some pushback to how much they're going to be willing to change, and if we can do that ourselves, then.
Right. From my earliest memory of getting involved in this whole thing, I mean, the planning thing, there's always, people are always talking about, well, the Lyme Common District, we can do this, we can do that. And whenever it came up, we have no data at all that tells us anything. And then we did that ridiculous study of being locked in that room, with a dusty room, trying to find septic information, and it was like reading hieroglyphics. But this at least gives us and the town something to start a meaningful collection of data, but it's certainly not the end result. So what I would like to just go over, hopefully briefly, was everybody's homework, lot size averaging language. The idea were the dimensional controls of any approved reduced lot. By the way, just for your information, Rich,
Yes,
your name is Rich.
it is.
Yes. Anything that we're doing, changing the zoning at this point, has no bearing on you, unless you want it to,
Okay,
just so you understand that.
that's true, because it's not gonna be approved till.
Well, even so,
No,
because your
our
case
application's
already
in,
started,
yes.
your grandfather, so you have like two choices. You could do either. You
Yep.
could, if you like this, you could do this, if you like the way it is, you could follow that. Just wanted to clarify that. So the dimensional controls of any approved reduced lots created under 511 blah, 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 shall be limited to a maximum of, we were gonna do building footprint, gross floor area, and lot coverage. And any approval contingent upon compliance with all state regulations, because as David said, there are those issues. And from my point of view, the reason of to do this is to promote reasonable and encourage reasonable cluster development that's reasonable in terms of density and scale. So, anybody have, I mean, we were talking about a 3,000,
Yeah, I did something really simple. It was
Okay.
way too simple.
don't
Well, I
assume
made a
it.
I did a sentence. The maximum building footprint, maximum lot coverage, and maximum gross floor area shall be no larger than the stated numbers above regardless of lot size. And I had maximum building footprint, 1,500 square feet, maximum lot coverage, 4,500 square feet, maximum gross floor area, 3,000 square feet.
That's a good starting point, let me write that
I
down.
mean, it's really simple, but I was trying to figure out what a reasonable lot coverage would be.
Read that now,
Listed out
I think
numbers.
that's a good starting point. And what was, maximum lot coverage is 4,500?
4,500.
Okay,
Building mansions that way.
well,
3,000
that's not what we're
I understand.
trying to do.
Well, maximum gross floor area, 3,000 square feet, that's a pretty big house.
That's a decent sized house,
It's bigger than our house.
it's bigger than my house.
But can you have more than one bedroom?
Yeah.
It's up to you. You want a big 3,000-foot
No,
bedroom.
that relates really to the setback.
I mean,
Oh.
the problem with all this is, chances are that somebody's that's gonna build a house like this, that's $800,000 house, they're not gonna wanna be on top of somebody else. But
Well, then
that's
don't lot
beside-
size average.
But
Right.
some people do.
Yeah, some people
Yes, I
do.
guess some people.
People in Hanover buy big houses that are really close to each other
Yeah.
and are very expensive, more expensive.
No, I
was
guess
just
that's
in
true.
Londonderry, and the same thing, I was seeing houses that were I think larger than Rich's house, that were right on top of each other. Literally, you know, you could talk between the windows.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
I don't know what the price of the house is.
That's what happened, where my father lived, he lived in Mamaroneck, New York, and it used to be, you know, pretty big parcels. And when he died, the knocked down his house the next day, and they, you know, I mean, you literally look into everybody's window.
Well, I'm looking at it from my standpoint. I suppose if you grew up in an apartment in some city, then your
Yeah.
reference is totally different, so yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it's.
All right, but I think that's a good start. So, next time, I'd like to move this along, so if anybody has further thoughts on this, it's too late really now to go into this much.
If you wanna send me those.
I'll send them to you, or do you want to send, why don't you send it to Mr. Lang?
Yeah, or I can just give it to you.
Yeah, if you wanna just give it to me, then what I will do is type it up and in the minutes, and then it'll be,
Thank you for doing
Yeah,
it.
well,
So, all right, this is, any new business? Do you have any?
I do have the lighting, for.
We're not gonna do that
Well,
tonight.
before you say that.
No, after I say that.
Well, I did try to look up the dark sky, and I just couldn't, I could find the organization who certifies them. I could find very few lights that were actually,
You can go to Home
No, I
Depot and
found
find
it.
them.
Well, there were-
And also you can go just
They
to
were-
the dark sky
I'm gonna
org,
just take one of
and then they
these.
say fixtures.
This is
There's a
the
whole bunch of
sheet
them.
that Vicky had created,
Right.
last year, and I'm just, you should already have that, but you might not, right?
No, I don't.
But I'm just passing around new copies for
Thank you.
everybody to refresh their memories.
Okay. All right, so, anybody else have any other business? So does that mean we're done?
I'm done.
I'm cooked. All right. You were a spectacular group tonight. I wanna make sure to point that out.
Fair enough. I'm out tomorrow, and Monday's a holiday, so I won't be back in the office till Tuesday.
Congratulations.